Hello and welcome to the Jerick Show. Sorry, we're a minute late. My colleague here was nattering backstage and I completely lost track of time. But do not worry, he said that I don't have all the stories and everything prepared, and we're going to prove him wrong. Welcome to the only show you need to watch every week to get your cybersecurity fix.
Welcome to the Jerick Show, featuring your hosts Javvad Malik and Eric Krohn. Timely topics, poorly presented.
Hey, hi, hello, and welcome to the Jerick Show. Welcome, Eric. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, but I'm not over-promising like you when you're saying the only show you need to watch to get your cybersecurity fix, because we don't fix a damn thing, man. As a matter of fact, I would say you probably need to watch a whole lot of other shows if you really want your cybersecurity fix. We'll cover some of them.
It was a reference to how drug users talk about getting a fix when they shoot up some heroin or whatever. I don't know. I've seen it in movies, but they say, "I need my fix, man." And
is that what it is?
That's
what it is. Okay. Well, we are. I think we're pretty amusing sometimes. Today may not be that day. I'm pretty tired.
You're always tired. You're over 50. You're always tired.
Man, I got to hey, Randy Lee says good morning. Good morning, Randy. Good morning. Got to spend yesterday down in Miami, actually, at a conference speaking down there. And it was at a really sweet hotel, man. Like you know, we get to go to a lot of places, right? And that's kind of cool with our job. And most of the time it's like a Residence Inn or some like it looks like every other hotel. I don't know about you. I've woken up in hotels, looked around and been like, where am I? Because it looks like every other hotel room I've been in, right? But I got to stay at the Biltmore Hotel in Miami. What is it? Miami. Anyways, gorgeous hotel, built in 1926, I believe. And it's the first hotel I remember staying in that had a chandelier over the bed. It was
no way
freaking sweet, dude.
Oh man,
it was very, very cool.
If I had known, I would have hired someone to wear the Phantom of the Opera mask and come and cut the cord and like crash down on top of you. That would have been epic.
You know what's kind of weird? I did wake up in the middle of the night thinking like this place has got to be haunted. Like I kind of freaked myself out a little bit. Like this old, this much stuff. And somebody mentioned it the next morning out of the blue. And they're like, oh yeah, well, the ghost is actually in a building over there, but it's very haunted. And I was like, okay, so maybe I wasn't too far off. But no, it was pretty cool though. It was nice. It was a good time to go do that and spread a little bit of cybersecurity knowledge and joy.
Wow, joy. Man, someone really overestimates what they bring to the table. But anyway, speaking of bringing stuff to the table, global taxi software vendor exposes details of nearly 300,000 across UK and Ireland. So this is iCabby is the name.
You familiar with it?
Huh?
Are you familiar with it? iCabby?
I'm not, no. I believe they do the back end for a lot of the cab companies. So they provide the software that cabbies use. So nearly 300,000 people affected. Many are senior people with BBC, government, ministers, that kind of stuff. Around 2,000 .ac like .uk domains were also visible. So, you know, it's a shame, but you know, there's probably like information in there as to like how often they take a cab, what they pick up,
right?
What locations are.
Yep. And you know, we've talked about this kind of stuff before. The metadata that you can pull out of data like this, right? Like with the GPS watches or even the gym. Remember there was the gym that got breached and we were talking about how now you could know if a certain executive is at this point at a certain time every day, every week, etc. You can actually glean a lot of good information from this kind of stuff if you wanted to use it for nefarious purposes.
Yep. And this story hits the nail on the head. It says such data could be used to convincing phishing scams.
Yep.
And, you know, if someone knows that, every week on a Friday, so-and-so gets a cab from the office to the airport. And so that, all I need to do is send a phishing email a few hours before that and say, your normal taxi service being cancelled. There'll be an alternate driver there or whatever.
Right.
Click
here to accept or something.
Yes,
Yeah, exactly.
So that's all, again, it's the case of like, it seems like it's just a regular day at the office for most people when you hear about a few 100,000 or even a few million data lost. But then we keep wondering why people get fooled all the time, or why they, are so convincing. And that's one of the reasons why.
Well, the good news is, if you're part of one of these breaches, you can get credit monitoring.
Hallelujah.
Wow, right?
So behold, we are saved.
I know, I was talking to somebody about that yesterday too. And the fact that they give you credit monitoring, like over here, obviously our big information is a social security number, right?
Yeah.
So we track a lot of things off that. That's your identity in a lot of ways. You prove your identity. So that goes away. Awesome. They gave it up. And now I get 2 years of credit monitoring or something like that. What happens for the other 30 years of my life when that information's out there? And it's always going to be valid, because you can't just go down there and go, I'm tired of this number. I'd like a new one. It just doesn't work that way.
And you know what? I'm thinking one day we're going to get some criminal enterprise, take down the infrastructure, and they're going to have like these databases of like, do not touch for another 6 months. Credit monitoring is still active.
Yep.
so I think it's that. Randy, yes, you are right. There is consistency and there is confusion. Actually, and I believe I mentioned this on the show before. I was watching an episode of MTV Cribs. There was a boy band, and they decorated their rooms in their house to mirror the layout of how Hilton or whichever chain.
Yeah, you did talk about that.
They say it just for that fact that there's no confusion as to where they're waking up.
Man, if you live on the road, you know how this is.
Yes.
If you don't trust us, it's a thing. Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
All right. So what do we got next?
Next story, we have got LG Smart TVs, and over 90,000 of them may be exposed to remote attacks. And they found vulnerabilities in the OS.
Yeah.
And it allows varying degrees of unauthorized access and control over affected models, including unauthorized bypass, privilege escalation, and command injection.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah. It creates arbitrary accounts on the device using a service that runs on ports 3000, 3001, which is available for smartphone connectivity using a PIN. And although it's only supposed to be used in local area networks, Shodan Internet Scan shows 91,000 exposed devices that are potentially vulnerable to the flaws. Good old Shodan coming with the facts.
Right.
To prove people wrong. I love it.
And these are internet exposed, like it says, not internal. And it's one thing, it's bad to have a lot of these things in there that are internal and vulnerable, because what happens? People get into the network and that's what they exploit, right? That's where the vulnerabilities are a big deal. Once they're in the network, this is where they land stuff. This is where they keep stuff. This is where they throw in backdoors and stuff like that. But to actually have it internet connected, that's an ugly, ugly thing.
It is. What's interesting about this is that the majority, like about more than half of them, are in the Republic of Korea, and then it's Hong Kong, then the US. So you got like other places like Poland. There's only like 800 odd people with devices
open to the internet
that are connected to the internet and what have you. So
that kind of makes
the
sense.
UK isn't on there, so I'm not worried.
Look at you, you're safe, huh? No, it kind of makes sense because LG is a Korean company, and so it would make sense that there's a lot of local stuff there. Now, I'll say this: it wasn't that long ago. I'm going to say 2019 or so. The CEO of LG made the statement that they're going to put this Think OS on pretty much everything from now on. Right? He made that blanket statement. All of our stuff is going to be smart.
Yeah.
And at the time I went, oh, that's kind of scary. Do we really need smart toasters, folks? We got to really think
No,
about that, right?
no.
And
And now we're having the same wave with AI. We're going to put AI
oh
into
God,
everything.
yeah, yeah. It's crazy. I mean, the fact is, a lot of organizations don't really know what's on their network, and it's this stuff like this IoT stuff makes it even harder, right? Like when they end up doing things like network segmentation, I've talked to so many people who are like, you would not believe the crap that I found on my network that they didn't even think about, but it's a vulnerable piece of software. So TVs, yay. Microwaves, yay. Fridges, come on, man, we can live without that. Yeah.
So Randy's
Oh,
back. This is like we're doing two shows. We're having a show and a
yeah,
conversation
we
with
are.
Randy.
Yeah, it's a
It's
sub show.
brilliant. So he was talking to a
Cool.
concert promoter. He mentioned that the Rolling Stones would bring their own furniture from venue to venue for consistency. This included the placement of the opened pack of cigarettes.
Wow.
That is,
Different groupie every show.
yeah.
But the furniture was exactly the same.
Wow.
No, good insight there, Andy.
No, that's funny. And it's funny. Sometimes you see people at airports, they're traveling and they're holding a pillow or
Yeah.
something because they can only sleep on that pillow, or that's the
Yeah.
comfort they need and what have you. So it'd be interesting to know if any of our viewers, listeners have any travel tips that they use to help keep that feeling of home. Like I know one person, they said they have a specific app for white noise that they listen to when they sleep, and they without that they really struggle to sleep. So when they travel, they play that and they're quite content. But
that's interesting. I've never thought about that from this standpoint. Here at the house, there's certainly things that I have in place. Like I can't sleep in my room without the ceiling fan on.
Mhm.
It's like stupid. I don't care if it's 20 degrees out. There's got to be air moving. I can get away with that in the hotels, but part of it is I go into the hotel and I hit down as much as I can to get the temp down. I remember you tried to prank me in Miami with that one time. You thought you were going to be sly and turn my AC down as low as it would go, and all you did is save me the time of doing it myself.
Next time I'll turn the heat up. That's
right. I shouldn't tell you this, but that would be the right way to mess with me.
Yes.
But yeah, it's funny how we run into stuff like that or have things like that. We do.
I know. So next story.
Reg.
Head of Israeli cyber spy unit exposed by his own privacy mistake.
Oops a daisy.
Yeah, so he's the head of the unit H200.
Is that all? Yeah. So he wrote a book. Yeah, he wrote a book, and I believe it was on Amazon. And something happened with, was it a review? I think it was. Anonymous email that can easily be traced to the name and Google account.
Mm-hmm.
Oops a daisy. It is interesting. Even those that are way into spycraft can still leave a digital trail. And I honestly think that's kind of a lesson for all of us, especially even those people that are like, well, I don't really do much on the internet. And I try to tell them all the time because they're like, oh, I don't have to worry about being fished. Nobody knows who I am. I'm like, no, you don't understand. You've done business with your county, with, you pay an electric bill and they have an email address for you. And all this information gets out there. And it is really easy to slip up. So you can never just assume that, that your information isn't out there. Yeah. That's a nice end there.
Yes, that is a nice end there.
Ouch.
But also I think one of the things is that, you see, this is like over 20 years that he's been working this field. And one thing about OPSEC and what have you, you have to be all in from day one.
Yeah.
You can't be like midway through something and then say, oh, you know what, now I'm going to make this anonymous or whatever, because there's so many things tied to it that you can't. So you need to be really good at segmenting and isolating stuff. The Grug's done a couple of really good talks on this thing, and he was talking about, how much effort it actually takes. And when you go into this, and it's like that device shouldn't even connect to the network that your other device is ever connected to, and you need to leave it at home. And then I was like, wow, this is some next level stuff.
Yeah, I've seen them talk about like doing fingerprinting on GPUs in how quickly they process certain things. Like we're talking some really interesting stuff here. Some of it theoretical, some not. But I know like fingerprinting GPUs is part of it. Looking at like even if you're in a like a VM or something, or even if you put your browser full screen, being able to see what size you're at and being able to tie that stuff together actually gives up a little bit more information to people. And I think it's interesting. It's one of those things where you're right. You gotta go from scratch, and you really have to be careful because it doesn't take much to give away that kind of information, which is why I really honestly recommend to a lot of people who are interested in the dark web and stuff like that. They're like, oh, well, it's interesting because it's this off limits thing. And you kind of want to drive by the seedier side of town every once in a while. You know what I mean? It's like that feeling, but you could really find yourself in some trouble if you stumble in the wrong places, et cetera, et cetera. Not just from that, but from law enforcement, because you probably may not have supposed to be there. And, there's all kinds of stuff like that I'm like, just don't, if you don't have a reason to be out there poking around and stuff, just don't.
Hear that, folks? That's advice from Uncle Eric. Don't be poking around where you don't belong. Randy's holding a Yara workshop in a couple of weeks. It's amazing what Yara will find on your network. Is it an open workshop? Can we register? Post your link here, Randy. We'll promote it for you.
We will, to both of our listeners.
Yes.
And yeah. So folks, just so you know, we have absolutely no idea who's actually watching live, because right now our live button says there is nobody on here, but clearly Randy and some others are actually on here. So that's one of the things with this platform that drives me nuts. Anyways. Yeah.
A third of charities experienced a cyber breach last year, government reports.
This is your neck of the woods.
Cybersecurity breaches survey, and they've experienced some sort of cyber incident in the last year. And
this is in your neck of the woods. This is UK based on.
Yes, this is UK based. So this is actually a really interesting report. There's lots of data. So they break out everything into businesses versus sites, charities, basically.
Yeah.
So you have businesses are dark blue and then the greenish color. So it's got a lot of really, really good data on here. And
that's cyan.
There is a this is the table I was looking for.
Okay, there we go. Nice of you to join us.
Here's one I prepared earlier. When you look at the type of attack they're experiencing, whether you're a business, whether you're a charity, around 90 to 94, over 90% are going to be phishing attacks. If you're not spending or investing in preventing this, then you could do your whole thing of let's put in anti-DDoS measures, or let's have some API security, or let's do a firewall rule review. You're missing a big chunk of the puzzle. And that there's not a one-time fix for that. You need, like most things in security, you need a few layers to prevent, some layers to detect, some to contain, and do your whole incident response and what have you. But I think the data is irrefutable that, where you need to. I sound like Roger Grimes right now.
You kind of do, yeah. Now, one of the numbers I heard recently was 6.4 billion fake emails go out every day. That is a lot of fake emails. Okay. And it's, some of it's spam, some of it's phishing, et cetera, et cetera. But if you put your head around that number, that is a lot of crap flying around on the internet, just trying to get into people's inboxes. And it's why we always say, I always tell people, you have to have the technology. Absolutely. You need email filters. No doubt about it. Otherwise, you're just going to swamp the people on the other end. You'll never get a damn thing done. Right. But there is a lot of that stuff flying around. And for organizations that and I am going to sound a bit like a commercial, but I think we both truly believe this, which is why we work for who we work for. But it is really important to tackle that human side. Even if you don't like doing it, you can't just throw up a bunch of technology. You got to have the tech, man. But please, 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 if you're in an organization, even in a small organization or one of these not-for-profits like this, please take it seriously. I mean, you may do training, but you don't take it seriously, and that really honestly doesn't help. Please do something. I'm begging you all. I'd rather not see this happening all the time.
That really came from the heart, Eric. I don't think there's any way you can top that. I'm ready to invest just based on that. So thank you for that. I think you've reached peak and there's nothing more you can add of value to this show. So thank you so much for that. And here is the link for Randy Lee's interactive workshop. I cannot click that. Oops, I've now absolutely messed up my screen. No, I can't click that. But if you go into the comment section, you're probably able to see it. It sounds really interesting. I might even take some time out, as long as it doesn't clash with anything else, to join on there myself. So with that, thank you very much. And we thank this week's sponsor, Randy Lee. And we'll see you again next week. Stay secure, my friend.